Welcome to Mic Check Waifu Waifu.
Check. Mic check, waifu, King Telliano. Is that you?
247, we here.
This is episode 247 of Mic Check Waifu. As always, it's brought to you by Patreon. Patreon.com/Mic Check Waifu is where you can get early access to the video version of this podcast. Is where you can get access to the Patreon exclusive podcast, the After Story. You get access to Take Talks, Mic Check Mangas, etc. All early and ad-free over on patreon.com/Mic Check Waifu. Mic Check Waifu is the anime podcast. It's brought to you every Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. CT. It's also brought to you by the Patreon producers. We couldn't do the show without the Patreon producers. I want to give a huge shout out. Christian, the archivist, Rob from Dad Needs to Talk podcast, Saphir, Go D Dre, Ked the Pro from Chaotic Culture, Explicitly, All for One Matt, Monique Williams, Nachi, Simi Sensei, Frozen, Rob Stone, and T Moneyfingers. Thank y'all so much for producing this. Many other episodes of the podcast. We appreciate you. Shout out to everybody that pulled up last week for a live episode, 246. I got a lot of good feedback about that episode. I feel like it was a fun episode at the time. But listening back to a podcast version might not have been as fun, but it's the opposite. A lot of people tell me that they love the episode. It was a great episode. So
it ain't about our fun. It's about theirs.
Mm-hmm. So I'm glad y'all enjoyed it. I was going to edit it. I thought about editing it. I thought about like chopping some stuff up and cutting out some dead air and some of the extra stuff we were talking about. But I don't know. You know what? It's up on YouTube like that. So I might as well leave it in the podcast version too. I don't want to give
it exclusive.
Exactly. I don't want to give the podcast listeners less than what the live show got, which will kind of entice you to kind of go to the live shows, huh? Maybe that would have been a good idea. Anyway. Tell, how you feeling, brother?
Another good week in the books, bro. I'm good. My son lost his first tooth.
Wow.
At like 4:00 in the morning.
How did that happen?
He came knocking on the door. You know, he's in his own room, sleep, doing his own little child thug dizzle. Like I said, sleep. He comes knocking on the door, and normally when he knocks on the door at like 4:00 in the morning, like, Apollo, you just need to go back to sleep, baby. But he's like, I lost my tooth, so we jump. We jump out of bed immediately, and we don't do the whole lying to the kids about the tooth fairy or Easter or whatever thing. If you want to believe it, you can believe it, but we tell them, hey, this is what it is, but if you want to believe whatever, you can. So we told them, like, look, you can get 5 tickets, and we're on this ticket thing where basically we give them a ticket and we have this treasure box, and for each ticket you get a treasure. So he got 5 tickets, he got 5 treasures. It was dope. He was happy, very excited. We took his tooth. We went on about our day. But basically, he just, he gets to be a kid, gets to enjoy, him growing up, and it's a beautiful thing. Because Monique and I, we damn near crying. Monique did cry.
I bet she did.
Yeah, but I'm still, I'm like, man, I'm dad mode, and we was playing games together all week, so it was fun.
Yo, I'm the opposite. I'm going, if ever I have kids, because we don't even know that's ever going to happen. But if I ever have kids, I'm going to be the one and be like, yo, Santa Claus is real until you find out that he ain't. You know what I'm saying? The tooth fairy is real until you find out he ain't. I don't know why it is about that I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Because to be fair, my ex, I still communicate with her daughter because I was there from when she was like 2 years old. She's just turned 10 though. And she still, to this day, believe in Santa Claus. And I would not, even it was the best thing ever for her to be excited about, Christmas and Easter and all the stuff that she would normally be excited about. She just loved that stuff.
And see, I agree with that if that's what you're gonna do. But me, I never believed in Tooth Fairy. I never believed in Santa Claus. So for me, I woke up, got gifts. My mom like, Santa Claus brought you gifts. I was like, thank you, Mom. You know what I mean? From like 4 years old on up, it was always thank you, Mom, not Santa Claus.
Was there? So it wasn't your mom that did that.
No one ever told me.
Okay.
That Santa Claus wasn't real. I just told my mom at like 4 that Santa Claus isn't real. She asked me how I knew. It was just didn't seem real. But that's how I've always been. Not to make this that kind of podcast and we talk about it on After Story. But if I don't think it's real, I'm gonna tell you I don't think it's real. So I told my mom I didn't think it was real, and ever since she just been I'm Santa Claus. Now she still put my gifts out the day before Christmas like Santa Claus is doing it, but I wasn't with that. So how you doing, Brolo?
Not too bad, man. I'm enjoying life. Every once in a while though, there's these times where I just don't feel like doing it, like as far as like gaming or movies or anything like that. It's always got to be something specific that brings me out of a funk, I guess.
Yeah, I feel you.
And this time it was nothing. Until yesterday when I decided, okay, I don't feel like playing the game. I don't feel like laying down either. I just watched anime. And we're going to talk about it later, but I finished both seasons of Konosuba. And that was, we're going to talk about it a little later, but that was the only thing that got me out of it. You know what I'm saying? That got me up and active again. So I don't know. It's just those times, man. Again, we talk about, if you're a Patreon supporter, you heard this on many after stories before, but it's these times where, depression seeps in and it gets to me a little bit. And the ways I handle it is every time it feels so different. And this time it was nothing until yesterday. And then when yesterday happened, it was anime again. It brought me back.
Gotta love it.
Gotta love it. But until that, let's discuss what today's show is going to be. So today's show is obviously winter is officially done as of today, outside of Ninja Kamui if you're still watching that garbage. So everything is done for winter. Winter is all said and done. So this week and next week is the start of the spring anime show. So by the time you're hearing this, there should be a couple of shows already out that we didn't get a chance to watch, obviously, but we're going to get to that next episode, 248. But this time, we're going to talk about the shows that wrapped up, us catching up on, me specifically catching up on both seasons of Konosuba, Tel watching one season of Konosuba, and then we're going to do a review. A review is of season 2 of bottom tier character Tomozaki. As you guys know, or if you don't know, if you're uninitiated, we decided that every anime season, we're going to do 2 reviews. We don't exactly know, but we did establish last week episode that Windbreaker is going to be the review for the end of the spring season. So even if it's garbage or whatever it is, we just picked a random show and we decided that we're going to review it. And then we're going to do a mid-season review. So it's always a mid-season review, anime review, and an end of the season anime review. And this is the end of the season anime review, which is bottom tier character. So if you haven't watched that, that's going to be in the second half of the show. So there's going to be no spoilers for anything specific this week. But we are going to talk about the end of the season shows for the specific stuff we watched this season. So where do we want to, before we start there, I guess we'll start with the episode of the week this week, Tel.
I hate you. You do episode of the week first.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, you do it first, because I know what mine is. I
can't remember. It's hard to remember what finished exactly.
Hokkaido Gals.
Yeah. I'm going to do The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic as my episode.
No.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be my episode of the week. Only because, no, I'm lying like fuck. The Dangers in My Heart season 2.
I don't like you. I don't like you even a little bit.
I was gonna try to avoid it, but I can't because I don't feel like enough people are watching The Dangers in My Heart season 2 or The Danger in My Heart period. That show is damn near perfect.
Okay, so I'm gonna change mine.
Oh, that was your
yeah. That was a phenomenal ending. As soon as I saw it, I was like, hell yeah.
It's perfect.
That's the one. It's cooking. That was it. But I'm gonna go with Hokkaido Gals because
that was a good one too.
That ending, and it didn't have the same impact as Dangerous in My Heart, but I do feel like even the last like 30 seconds of that episode was like, man, I love this. This is something I would happily come back to. I'm ready for more. It was good, and it was one of those endings that was so unassuming without doing too much. Didn't end on this like ridiculous cliffhanger.
Right.
It just had a solid, good ending. Like, why is it so hard to do that sometimes? But it was great, man.
Why is it so hard to do that sometimes? What a great question. Because a lot of shows do seem to have trouble.
Yeah.
So before we continue with the wrap ups of everything, I just want to go to one of the Patreon producers, Rob Stone. He gives us a comment on the YouTube video of last week's shows, and he said, and I want to read it because he also shares his sleeper for this season, which is going to be fun. So
okay,
stick with me here, Tel. Let me get my glasses because y'all know I'm blind. As a bat. He says there are a lot of shows that sound pretty good this season, and a huge number that I need to watch back episodes of catch up, like Jobless Reincarnation and Regular Magic High School and the Misfit Demon King Academy. Seems like the most talked about, and I'll start there. So that, for one, great shows to pick up. Jobless Reincarnation specifically. If you have to forego not watching the other two and watch just one, Jobless Reincarnation, I would highly suggest you pick up. But he continues. He says, I did watch Black Butler with my sister a decade ago, but I think I'll skip that one. The story seemed pretty complete after the initial season. I think I'm right there with you too. I don't think I'm watching Black Butler. But he says, my sleeper is going to be the Aristocrat Reincarnation one. Can't remember his name. But he said it's a great start because of the name. He said, hopefully it hits the same magic plus early modern society vibes as Parallel World Pharmacy. I knew I liked Rob Stone because we talk about Parallel World Pharmacy all the time. That was a fantastic show that season 8 that came out. And then he continues with the last paragraph. He says, I've been trying to join. Oh, never mind. That's just him trying to join the Discord. There is a link in for the Discord in the show notes or on our website. So if you can't join the Discord, make sure you just go to miccheckwife.com. And on the side panel, there's a place for you to join. But his sleeper is going to be the Aristocrat one that we talked about last week. That looks very similar to something like Parallel World Pharmacy. So it might even be great.
Or the realist, reincarnated realist.
Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom.
Yeah, Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom. Yep. So it looks like it might end up being a conglomeration or amalgamation of both of those, which could be fire.
Which could absolutely be fire. All right. So continuing on with the show, wrap up, Tel. So let's talk about our sleepers first. So Hokkaido Girls wrapped up. You just said it was your episode of the week, so you enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, man. The thing is with Hokkaido Gals is that it wasn't like sometimes like slice of life can be like a slow burn. Mm-hmm. To me, it did not feel like that.
It did not.
It didn't feel like it took off to like this crazy ridiculous start or anything though. You know what I mean? Yeah. The pacing was solid. Like, and I hate to say it, like this was like basically perfect pacing for a slice of life, without having it be a continuous like plot point where there's always a plot point for each individual episode. For this to be an opening season for something like this, introducing the characters, introducing the relationships between the multiple different characters, even the parent characters, dynamics and stuff like that, it felt like the pacing was damn near perfect, like a 9.5 kind of concept. Like it's basically perfect. It was not hard to enjoy. Just sitting there week to week in the art style. It suited the energy and the I guess like what the show was trying to give off, right? It suited the friendliness and the wholesomeness of the show too, because it is a very wholesome show. It's almost like yes, there's like this relationship dynamic where we're thinking about the relationships more than they're talking about them. but it almost is unassuming in a sense too. And I say unassuming in that sense, and I know I'm talking a lot, but I say unassuming in a sense of like the relationship, while it is at the forefront, it's not at the forefront. It's not the only thing to think about. It's literally, you can think about just them having a good time together, bro. And the show is good because of that. It's so good because of that, where it's not make it like stapling it to your face that has to be a relationship somewhere. And then we even get this ending where it just feels like this grandiose, complete moment.
When I think about Hokkaido Girls, I think a perfect way of describing it's like you said, wholesome, but it builds the relationship in an organic way. It's not being forced on anybody. Nobody's like, when you think of Hokkaido Gals, and you think of the gal girl that's in all these animes, that's like fingernails and popular and makeup and blah, blah, blah. You think of that arrogant girl who is either a bully and either has her change or whatever the case may be. This is nothing like that. This is all just good people.
Consistent straight heat.
They're just good people enjoying their lives and letting things naturally build. It's not anything, like you said, not anything being forced upon you, like romance wise or anything like that. It's the most natural growth of a relationship I've seen since, man, forever. I mean, Danger's in My Heart, to be fair. It's just a natural relationship build that I deem to be effortless to watch. It's so effortless to watch that and Rob Stone gave it what I consider a rough score. He don't, like he said, middling for him is 5 on his scale. He gave it a 6.5, and I don't agree with that, because I do think it's a little bit better, but I mean I can understand why, because it's not much to it, right? But then again, it's like, I don't know, I love the enjoyment of watching it. And like you said, the pacing being as perfect as it was, it felt easy to watch.
Yeah, and I'll even go as far as saying things like the only reason I disagree with his score is because I'm thinking about our score, right? I'm thinking about if the pacing is damn near 9.5, right? If that's where I'm putting the pacing, I might as well give it a 10. Or I'm like right there, right, for pacing. 9.5. Let's say I'm giving it a 9.5. The characters, I'm giving them basically a 9.5 or a 10. And the only reason I would take off a 0.5 is because I felt like the dad was haphazardly introduced, in a sense of like, it was very quick. But realistically, I feel like the actual interactions with the characters who made a difference, those characters were perfect. I think those two scores alone carry it to above like a 6.5 or so. But I can get where you're coming from if you're talking about your own personal enjoyment. But for me, I mean, it's hard for me to feel like it's going to land maybe a 7 something.
Rob Stone, when you watch this episode, do me a favor, because I don't know if this will be your first review that you're coming in on for My Check Waifu, but after you watch the review for Bottom Tier Character in the second half of the show, rate the anime based off of our scale, and can you comment that for me and let me know what you feel about Hokkaido Girls after? See if you kind of fall in the same category. Obviously, we're gonna see how the review and everything works in the second half of the show, but I kind of want to see where that would go from that perspective, because that I think it will kind of skew your perspective on a lot of stuff when you think about it, when you break it down in the way we break it down. So I kind of want to see what you got from there. Mm-hmm. Now, going on to your sleeper, Undead Unwanted Adventurer. This was one that I thought Tail was going to miss. Tail, unfortunately, he's the more unique choices when it comes to his sleeper picks, and I always tell him this. I love him for it because it gets me out of places where I wouldn't necessarily pick up a show, and I watch it, and I try to do the same. I know I pick something that's obvious for me, but I pick something that's obvious for me because I know that means Tail will have to watch it, which is completely out of his wheelhouse. So there's a method behind a sleeper pick that we do, and the way Tail just kind of like he goes for it, and picks the most random shit you would never even think of, just so we have to watch it to see if we can find something great, which I always appreciate. And it hasn't worked out a lot of times for him well, but a lot of times it do, and when it does, it works well. Undead Unwanted Adventurer was one of my favorite shows this season because of the characters, the world, and the concept of the story. And then where the concept of the story is going makes it all the more intriguing to want to watch a season 2. Hopefully we get a season 2, which I think that's one of the ones we didn't get a confirmation on yet, even though most of everything else from this season got confirmations of season 2s. That one didn't yet, I don't think. But I would really love a season 2 on this one because it really is a joy to watch. Again, just being in that world with those characters, and very few characters, not a lot of characters, but the characters that we do got were fun.
And I think that's also important, right? Because like you think about some of the characters in the show, like remember the first girl we meet when he goes back into the dungeon and goes into that room. What's up with that, bro? The show has so much intrigue, and it's like, I feel like they left us with our mouth watering a bit, but also, you know, they left that intentionally in a sense of like giving us more. And then they filled out the world very well with like the artifacts and or the relics and whatnot. They did a really good job of making some of this stuff in the dungeon and in the regular world and how they utilize it really good. So like, yeah, we didn't have a ton of characters to say, oh, all of these characters are amazing. But they did so much other stuff well to where it didn't rely heavily on like the animation, or it didn't rely heavily on specifically characters. It could, you know, kind of lean between some other things. I'll say, like, for instance, no, I don't think like the characters or pacing were specifically as good as like Hokkaido Gals or anything like that. Right. But I think when you blend all of the stuff together of it, right? And this is an
overall package. This is
a Polo and Tell statement here. It is actually mad decent. It is mad decent, bro. It really like is. It's something that I enjoyed watching. They gave us an ending, and yes, it's a bit more of a cliffhanger than like Hokkaido Gals, but it didn't feel like one of them cliffhangers that's like we beating you over the head with it. You know what I mean? So there's just so many layers to this show that felt like they weren't rushing it. They were just letting you get to know the world and concepts in the world and characters. There were some like missions that were relatively quick, you know what I mean? But they were meant to be. They weren't meant to be like long-term delve into it, like when they did the fake Kraken mission. Yeah. You know what I mean? That whole point in that mission was to meet another character that was going to lead to the next mission. And, you know, they did these things well, the daisy chains into the next step.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Like the daisy chain from one event to the next was damn near flawless, like as far as the execution goes. And it led to the daisy chain led to some steps that gave you more and more intrigue as it continued to climb further and further up. Like where we end is like, yo, that is the most intriguing shit ever, because now what? You know what I'm saying? And I just love where it ended as far as like the overall.
And we were concerned, bro. Mm-hmm. We were concerned. Yep. Like the magical item we grabbed, we were like, come on, bro. And you know what? And I get it. I get it after seeing it. Yep. It's not the worst magical item, but I would have been distraught if that had been the case, man. Like, come on, man. Ain't no way.
That's tail put it.
That would have been. This show had to get turned off if that would have been the case.
100%. Another show that I talked about on Twitter recently that wrapped up is what I call a very underrated gem, and that's The Weakest Tamer Begin a Journey to Pick Up Trash. Mm-hmm. What a fantastic wrap to that. But again, another great cast of characters with some of the most beautiful, wholesome storytelling ever. Sad at first, but very wholesome and sweet. I do enjoy what I've watched. Where it ended though, I wish, even though she I guess I don't want to go into spoilers because like I said, it's an underrated gem that people need to watch. But yeah, even though some truths came out, I wish it all came out. You know what I mean? Right. About the reason why and and whatnot. So I don't want to go too deep into that because I do feel like this is a show everybody must watch. What's great about it is also dubbed and done.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a day and date dubbed, and it was fantastic.
What I do love the most about Weakest Tamer is basically all the same things you said, but I do love that they tied that intro where, like you said, some truths were told. They tied that introductory scene where our character was told, when you meet people you care about, do this. Mm-hmm. And eventually we got to that point. And it felt like a full circle moment. Yeah. The show, it's one of those shows I am very happy that Polo told me to go ahead and pick up. Because had I not, I would have missed out on this entirely. And it was great. It was actually really good. It puts a new spin on that idea of like what a worthless, tamer can do, or a worthless person can do, mm-hmm. in comparison to someone who has the talent but doesn't utilize it. And I'm not even sure if this person is actually. I don't want to go too far. No,
you can because it's titled The Weakest Tamer.
I don't want to go too far, but it's like I'm not even sure if this person is the weakest. You know what I mean?
I'm with you.
I do. It does put that perspective in the head where this person was told they're the weakest, but do we really know, since there's no real way of defining what the weakest is when you have nothing there? It could mean you have no limitations for all we know.
My thought, and this is not spoilers because this is all based off the first episode, and this is all speculation, obviously, so it can't be spoilers. My thought is that she has 4 more, but they only scale up to 3. You know what I'm saying? It's a power system where everybody has stars, and if you're 1 star, you're pretty useless. If you're a 2 star, you're mediocre, and if you're 3, you're excelling that particular piece of magic.
It's like that one show we watched where a dude had basically the highest possible power, but because they could only see the first 2 numbers, they couldn't tell how strong he was.
Exactly right. And that's what I think is happening. Again, it could be completely wrong because of CL, but that's my thought behind it. But I love it, man. I love the show so much. I do think it was another special show that I would have never picked up if I didn't was given all kinds of chances this particular anime season. Same with Fluffy Paradise. Both those shows are shows that I'm glad I picked up and watched and finished. And the conclusion of Dr.Elise, the royal lady with the lamp, was another one that was actually spectacular. It's so high up on my list for this season, and I didn't plan on touching it until 2 weeks ago, that I'm captivated to see if it continues to get another season. It does seem like it is with the way it kind of wrapped, but I think that show is also very, very, very special.
And where would it end on your scale? Like, not necessarily specifically a scale, but if you're talking about, because you said you were intrigued, I'm talking about like more of a Polo hype scale.
Oh, right. So everybody knows, if you don't know, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, so that 7 Time Loop was my number 1 show surprise show this season that I absolutely enjoyed. That was a new show, obviously.
Which is a genius show.
A fantastic show. Genius. Dr.Elise is second to that. And then everything else is like kind of far. It's like 7 Time Loop, Dr.Elise, and then The Weakest Tamer is like down, like a little bit further down, and then everything else is further. It kind of trickles down from there.
Mm-hmm. So, and clearly, this is removing things like Free Run because that was previous season. Any continuations like season 2s or whatever, like Classroom of the Elite and stuff like that, those aren't added to this list. I'm talking specifically new anime shows for the winter season. Mm-hmm.
It's
crazy.
Very, very high.
Well, hey. Speaking of Classroom of the Elite.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. That was one we could have spoiled today, since we decided to forego spoiler talk this week.
Ayana Koji.
Oh my God, what a demon.
Oh boy.
How do you even talk? You can't really talk about this without spoiling it. So
no, you're right though. But the title hinting at some kind of romance is crazy. But Ayana Koji is that guy. He is.
Maybe, because I want to talk to you about a little bit about it during the break, because I need to know. I need to know what you're feeling with that.
Because it's his statements, it's his words, and y'all who watched it, y'all know what we talking about. It's his words. And his actions have been the same throughout the entirety of this show.
Yeah, because
his words are kind of double-sided, bro.
Like I tweeted at Crunchyroll, like it's always a part of the plan. Like everything he does is a part of the plan. But in this particular case, he also says something else that's like, wait.
Hold up.
Wait a minute. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's definitely, man, I can't talk about Classroom, and you cannot talk about this episode or this show period without spoiling even previous seasons. So I don't want to get into it, but Classroom of the Elite, if you haven't seen the first 2 seasons, watch it all. It's totally worth it. I love that show from moment one. It's fantastic. And then to go into what I was about to have to be my episode of the week is the wrong way of using healing magic. That is implying more.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it hasn't been confirmed already, because like Sasaki and Peace was confirmed for season 2 already, and shout out to a lot of our producers over in our Discord dropped everything that was coming out, and I said I was going to use it for this particular episode, but I forgot to put the list together. There's a bunch of stuff that was confirmed for season 2 is the moment that they ended, but the wrong way of using healing magic did not get confirmed yet. But with the way it ended, you have to assume it is, because it was another spectacular ending, with more implications of way more story to be told within this world.
And hear me out, because I do. That's another show I really enjoyed that I was hoping was going to be better than like Redo of Healer, obviously, right? But it's a show that I enjoyed a lot. But I'm watching the show, in this finale episode, I'm just like, man, it's going so fast. It's going so fast. There's so many details that they just dropping in on us, and it's like, man, I would love to know that I have at least one more week of this show.
I don't agree with that, because I feel like it was always established the last 2 episodes.
That basically this is the wrap, right?
Yeah, and it was, he had the job of, the missives and whatever. Like that took a couple of weeks for them to establish that. But
right.
I do know what you mean about the
it's more about the continuation. Like I want more.
Yes.
It's not more about that. I specifically want like one more episode. It's more about like you said, they ain't announced that there's going to be a season 2 yet.
I was just about to say
more where I'm headed.
Yeah. I was just about to say they could have wrapped up the entire thing probably with one more. It would have been rushed, obviously, because it would have would have had to be like a fucking montage until we got to, the area he needed to go to. But I think the next season being what the next journey he's going on would be live. It's going to be live. So
yeah,
I'm okay with waiting. Like it's just so much content that we have as far as like new anime shows coming out within these most recent seasons that is almost overwhelming.
Yeah,
I'm not mad at it, but I would like to go back to watch finish the Monogatari series, or just finish stuff that I have on my list that I'm not going to be able to, because there's so much coming out.
They said put it on pause.
Yeah,
slow down.
Exactly. So I mean, and everything else it's kind of, yeah, we kind of touched on it last week. So I think we should go to what we did this week, and I talked to Frozen a little bit too. He had a little bit to say about it, but I'm gonna bring that into the show later. But Konosuba, I caught up on both seasons. They're only 10 episode seasons, so super easy to watch. Dubs is easy to turn on and watch and do it. I know a lot of people love Konosuba. I know it's a very popular show, obviously, because I made a few remarks on Twitter. And it got something from Off Black Mag, who's one of our guys, Aaron, who mentioned that it was one of his top 3 comedy anime. But
yeah,
do you want me to start with Konosuba?
Okay, well no, hold on. I only watched season 1 over. So I am going to say this really quick. I remembered basically everything up to episode 9. For whatever reason, I never watched episode 10. But the whole like everything. I'm so happy I was able to get this refresher going into it. But yeah, go ahead, Polo. Where were you gonna? Where you want to start, bro?
You go ahead and finish.
Yeah, no. I agree with the idea that this is like top 3 comedy anime. There's not many anime I've watched where I've actually laughed like vocally out loud. And I know I've been watching a couple of funny anime here and there. To me, I actually genuinely laughed, and some of the humor is a little much for me because it's like it's not necessarily too funny, but then there's other parts of it that are just like, these characters are ridiculous. So I do think it's actually, there are moments where it's actually like audibly hilarious. And then there's other moments where it's just like, I need to see these characters be serious for a moment, and when they get serious, it's kind of cool.
I don't think they ever get serious.
I mean, okay, yeah. Actually, they have serious moments that we should be, that like the whole world is taking serious, or the people around them are taking serious, and the group is just like being their ridiculous selves.
Yeah. I watched both seasons. Mm-hmm. Season 1 was hard to watch. I don't like this show. I didn't like this show at all. And now, again, I know it's popular. I know a lot of people aren't gonna like what I'm about to say, but I think the show was boring as fuck. I was falling asleep during a lot of it. And there are moments where I laughed. A couple of times I laughed. And the moments I laughed were at shit was so small, and they were so few and far between that it's like,
really?
Yeah, it was so few and far between, because it was like when other characters were having conversations, and then Kazuma would be like, that's my name, or he would be saying something in the background to kind of accentuate what they said as being ridiculous. That shit was fucking hilarious every single time that happened. I didn't audibly laugh. Like, I chuckle, the entire time. I didn't audibly laugh until episode 10.
Yeah. What was that?
This is spoilers for episode 10 of Konosuba, but it was when when Wiz mentioned sucking something out. And
yeah.
Kazuma was like, okay, whatever it is, I'm not even gonna ask what or where. And he's just like, yeah, like shit like that was hilarious in season 1. Season 2, I will say, was much better and more laughs.
Was it the pacing that was better in season 2?
No, because there's no pacing to the show whatsoever.
It's just happening.
It's episode, and everything is something different. Essentially, again, it is not that good of a show. I'm gonna still watch season 3 because I've watched both seasons. I didn't find it as funny as everybody else would, because what happens to me is I think the tropes got super old super fucking fast. Everybody's specific trope got so old to me, and it was so irritating, so much so that I was like, okay, I'm over it now. I'm over Aqua's stupidity. I'm even fucking over, and I'm the ecchi guy. I love that ecchi shit, but I'm even over Darkness's bullshit. Like I'm over that.
She does go a little far.
I'm over those tropes so much that it's like now I know what's gonna happen. Something terrible is gonna happen. It's gonna be all Aqua's fault, and Kazuma's gonna take the blame for it. And everything that happens in this world is Kazuma's fault. No matter what happens, no matter how terrible it is, it's Kazuma's fault because of his luck stat, and the satire behind that is cute. It's funny. It was funny the first 2 episodes.
Just luck stat.
Yeah, it was funny the first 2 episodes, and I get the whole satire piece of it. I was just super fucking bored to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of ready for this shit to be over. And it's probably exactly why it's only 10 episodes, because it's only so far you can take this shit before it gets old.
So, and I will say that, right? The characters themselves, if you take away the extra characterization of them, where they had the tropes and whatnot, if you isolated them from their characters and took the concept of the character alone, I think the characters themselves would actually be good. But I agree with that I don't think I actually enjoyed almost any of the characters. But the stuff that made me laugh was never like the stuff that was intentionally funny. It was more like, I remember he said something and the whole guild just like turned around and looked at him like, bro, what? Like, to me, those were like the funniest, hilarious moments where it was just like subtle background stuff that was happening that just made it hilarious.
It was always the not so obvious shit that was the most funny in the show. Like again, whenever somebody will be talking and he'll be in the background, like he'll be in my left ear because of the sound design was fucking sick, by the way. Yeah. He'll be in my left ear saying something off screen while somebody is talking, and it would be just so funny. There's no way I'm watching the third season without it being dubbed. Like I'm not doing that. Only because of the simple fact, because shit like that made it so much more funny. Because I forget what happened, but somebody was having a conversation and he was just like, yep, that's my name. And he would just say random shit like that coming from like way over here off screen. He's like, why would you say that? Or he would just say something that's like the obvious, why would that person do that type of shit? And it was pretty hilarious. I did like in season 2. I'm not going to spoil. I mean, again, it's nothing to fucking spoil. In season 2, there's a cult situation, and they're going around the town, and that shit was pretty funny. Only because of how cults are, like my knowledge of cults and how fucking ridiculous they could be, I guess, was pretty funny. And again, season 2 was so much better than season 1 that it was like animation wise too. Animation was fucking crazy in season 2 for whatever fucking reason. You could tell they got a little bit of money after season 1.
Yeah, because only a really well animated episode in season 1 was the last episode.
The last one, yep, exactly. So it was like they got their budget, and there was a lot of times where I'm like, damn, this shit looks fucking fire. It reminded me of One Punch Man, but I like One Punch Man. One Punch Man comedy is way fucking better to me. Like leagues above this. Honestly.
I think it's supposed to be more adult humor, and I guess not true. That's not what I mean by adult humor. I mean that the way that this humor is personified is, to me, feels more childish, I guess, in a sense, because it's like they're leaning too heavily into some of the, like you said, the sexual tropes and stuff like that. It's like, come on, bro, you gotta go that hard to prove that point.
Exactly. My branch of comedy is stuff like Tsukimichi. Like I laugh at shit like that. I laugh at Tony Kawa Over the Moon with You. Even though it's not like particularly super comedic, I laugh at shit like that though. Like something like this where it's like kind of childish humor, I guess it is. Childish is the wrong way of putting it, because it's not childish humor. It's very sexualized. It's very quote unquote adult, but it's South Park adult humor, and that's not my shit. That's never been my shit.
I do want to say, so like for me, this makes me think about, and I'm saying this, you gotta let me speak, like let me finish when I say this. It reminds me of Devil is a Part-Timer, in a sense of like, it's supposed to be like the antithesis to what this genre of anime is supposed to be. Execution to me wasn't super solid. I did find a decent amount of it funny. Like I feel like there was stuff I could find in every episode that would make me laugh or chuckle. So I do think it was funnier than Devil is a Part-Timer, but I think Devil is a Part-Timer, if we're talking about like, let's say, which one did the antithesis to the genre better, Devil is a Part-Timer was a little bit more, characters are better. They weren't as annoying. They had better development, that kind of stuff. Whereas this, there was not really much development in these characters. So we just kind of blasted through what's going on with them, especially in, like I said, in season 1. It was fast. It was fast paced. And then we got to the end and it was like, boom. I hope you laughed a couple of times. Like the succubus scene.
Yeah, I laughed there too.
I remember watching that and it's like, I knew exactly what was going on because I've played enough D&D. Yeah, that's exactly what I expected. And running it back is like, bro is stupid. Like it was never a evil spirit or I guess ghost the whole time. It was a succubus, a demon. So it was great. But I did laugh at that too because it was like, bro is actually gonna stand and fight for this. He's standing on business.
I think season 2 you're gonna like way more as far as like funny bits go than season 1. Season 1, I was fucking bored out of my goddamn mind though. I was like ready to turn this shit off. But for some reason I was ready to turn it off, but I didn't turn it off. Weird. I'm like, because it's the thing that got me out of the funk, right? Out of the funk that I was in. Like I was continuing to watch it. Like, all right, let's get to this next episode. Let's see if he's gonna do that little side comment funny thing that I actually like in the show. And it was again very few and far between that happened. But when it did, I laughed. This shit was pretty funny. And the dub is so good. Like some of the voice actors they got for the dub is phenomenal. Like I heard Robbie. I don't know if anybody's too familiar with Robbie, but his range is crazy in season 2. So he's fucking hilarious, and I don't know, man. I think it, and let me go to what Frozen said, because I think I feel Frozen more than anything when it comes to this, because he mentioned something that was. He says, because he was supposed to join us on his rewatch, and he said, "Man, I was supposed to hit the Discord this weekend and talk about it, but I originally said I watched the first few episodes, but I completely forgot that I was deep into season 2 because this shit was low key forgettable." And I agree with that.
I can agree with that.
I'm not going to remember this shit in minus 1 month. Like, it's going to be gone. Like, until I'm waiting until season 3 drops and it's dubbed and done. That's when I'm going to pick. I'm not going to watch Konosuba 3 this season as a week to week thing. I don't think it's worth doing that. I don't think it's even it'll even have my interest long enough to want to do that, because I'm gonna watch an episode. The episode's going to end. And I'm like, wow, why would I want to even watch this? I think the only way that I was able to watch it is because I had it all right there and just go and keep going. And I think that's how I prefer to watch it, opposed to just waiting week to week to watch something like that. Because some of those episodes that kind of they went on, like it turned on, and then it was just credits. Like, what the fuck even happened? Like, what did? And I know it's not supposed to be a plot. I know that's the part of the satire, but like, I'm like, what the fuck even happened? Like, I didn't even realize that this was a whole episode, because I'm like, there's nothing going on here. And it was literally nothing going on, quite a bit.
Yeah, that was a decent part of the show. A big chunk of it was nothing getting done.
But other than that, I am going to watch season 3 when it's done and dubbed, but that's all it's going to get out of me. All right. So you ready to take this break and hit to review?
Let me say this real quick before we do that. Metallic Rouge update. Still garbage. I looked at the Crunchyroll comments, and this is a spoiler, but I don't care. The top comment in Crunchyroll was, people can live for 7 episodes without their heart. That's just...
So it was a scientific fact, the top comment. For what? Because the show's that bad?
It's garbage, man. That show is bad. And it's funny because it's like, I'm looking at the Crunchyroll comments and it's like, I'm not the only one who's judging this and saying this is not good. Yeah. But it's just funny that, like, yes, and it's not really at 7 episodes. It's more like 2 or 3 episodes. But literally multiple episodes without a heart just existing. I get it. Whatever. They're not technically people.
They're robots, right?
Still very bad. What their heart is their ID. So it's like, without your ID, your personification, who you are, you can still exist, which is why are you making it seem like there's such a big deal that it got stolen then? Why, if you can still live without it, why make it like a big deal that it got stolen? Concepts don't make sense. Everything else in the world, though, oh my God, just take the characters out at this point.
I think that's the end of that Metallic Rouge story. I think we should just call it there.
Yeah, let's get to this break.
All right, we're gonna take this quick break, and when we come back, we are going to review Love Don't Cost a Thing season 2, bottom tier character Tomazaki season 2. So we'll see y'all after the break, right after these. welcome back to episode 247 of Mic Check Waifu. Second half is normally spoiler talk for shows that we are watching that we want to kind of discuss in greater detail. But this week we're going to forgo that for the review of the show I call Love Don't Cost a Thing. If you haven't seen the Nick Cannon, Christian Milian movie, but his bottom tier character Tomazaki, because they are very similar in concept. But we're going to review that show using the Mic Check Waifu review scale. For the uninitiated, Mic Check Waifu review scale goes like this. We are each are going to rate the show using 5 categories. Pacing, obviously that's the episode to episode and how strong the development was in the episode. Plot, its overall thoughts on the storytelling, writing, etc. Animation, the direction, the scenery, the art style, the overall visual fidelity. Sound design, soundtrack, overall sound effects, and the feel of the sound and music, etc. And last but certainly not least, characters. How much do we like or grow attached to the characters, mains and or sides? And we rate those using the 20-point scale, which is 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, etc. And we take those overall scores, we average each of our overall scores for those 5 categories into one score. And then we take that one score and average those 2 together. Obviously, this is an individual host. We take those 2 scores and we average them together to give the Mic Check Waifu overall scale of what we think. We've rated quite a few shows. The list is kind of long of shows that we've rated. We won't get to that at the end of this review. But like we always do when we do a review, Tell, what was your overall thoughts of the show before we get into scoring the 5 categories?
Easily digestible.
Mm-hmm.
And it could just be because I'm a gamer. It was extremely easily to digest. In terms of like just understanding where the next step is going to be, that kind of thing. How they're even correlating things together. And yeah, I would say that the show itself as its totality, it's different than what I thought what I was getting into. Because like I said, I did not watch the synopsis or read the synopsis of this before I went in. I had no idea this is what this is. I would play this as a dating sim if this were that game. If there is not one out for it already. I would play this as a dating sim. Like when I was in middle school playing mad dating sims. This would have been one of them on the list. So needless to say, I enjoyed it. Very much so.
Yeah. What the show did for me, particularly to season 2, because season 1 I watched a long time ago. Obviously, it was I think last year sometime or something like that, and it didn't do what season 2 did. Season 2 brought back the cooler conversation for the week to week. I think this was one of the best shows to watch week to week because of the conversations that was had within the Anime Talk Discord with the spoiler tag. Like we bottom tier character spoilers, and we would just go fucking off about our thoughts on where the story was going and who was doing what and what was happening. It brought back that conversation piece that you used to have in high school when it comes to talking about anime.
Yeah.
That shit does not happen now. You cannot go to Twitter and have these kind of conversations because it's just a cesspool. You can't do anything like that. And maybe it's just because of our community, which I would probably give that credit to them and y'all in general. But the community made watching bottom tier characters so much fucking fun to have every week go into Discord and be like, yo, man, what the fuck? Yo, what do you think about, where's what I think this is and how I feel about this character, how I feel about it, blah, blah, blah. And it was just such a great conversation in the Discord. I think it bringing that back for me is what made the show even more enjoyable than I already felt, because it's how I felt when we first started doing this podcast, watching Demon Slayer. And I'm like, episode 10, I'm like, yo, I gotta fucking talk to somebody about this. Yo, Legal, you watching? Nah. Yo, Malik, you watching? Nah. Yo, Neb, you watching? Nah. Tell, we gotta talk about this Demon Slayer. And it was from there, here we are. But like, it brought that back for this particular show. This is one of the best shows week to week, slice of life I ever had, to be honest. Well, it was, you know what it was, Tell? It was more than a married couple. How we used to talk about that.
Yeah.
Last year, was it last year? I think it was last year. It was like, because every week we would always bring More Than a Married Couple conversations to the spoiler talk because we just had to. And that's how this felt. But again, I've enjoyed the show so much from season 1. I love the characters. Love how it progresses. It was just fantastic. What a great show. Now, we get to the review.
Let's do it.
All right. Starting with, good. Make sure I got my rating sheet up. Yep. Starting with animation. Bottom tier character. How do you feel the show is animated, Tel? Animation obviously being scenery, direction, art style, overall fidelity.
Art style, stuff like that was really good. I feel like it was really consistent. But I don't feel like it necessarily did anything that stood out for me specifically. So my rating for animation is pretty modest in my opinion. It's a 7.5. I think it's better than average, but not ground shattering or anything like that. You know, it's not a 5, it's not a 6. 7.5 feels right.
Yeah, and I think I talk about this every time we have a review of specifically a Slice of Life. It's hard for Slice of Life's animation to be considered top tier. Right. But I will say this, for me personally, as a cinematographer myself, the direction of, you know, angles and the way they brought in just different scenery, like how can I say this? It was because, again, I talk about this when I say camera angles. I know it's an animation, but there is an importance to where the camera angles. Yes, where cameras are placed within the scenes of an animation that is so like mind blowing sometimes, and a lot of times there was shit that had me like, yo, that looks beautiful. That looks absolutely gorgeous, and it was either a camera pan or a camera transition, or, you know, it was just something that caught my eye every time I watched bottom tier character that I enjoy. So for me, I gave animation an 8. I gave it a little bit more above average, or a C. I gave it a B. I think it's an 80%. So animation wise, I do think like you said, it's not anything that's going to like mind blow you or like spectacular, but I do think it was above average for a Slice of Life. Normally it's just like a C every single time.
And you did remind me of like the way that they did the scenes with Aoi, and she was like teaching him, and she had her arms crossed. Like, granted, the scenes where they would do this, it was like every episode, but it would be between her legs looking at him or whatever, like from back. But the way they did that, at least this is how it worked for me. It seemed like the way that they angled that specific shot was to impose the idea that he is attracted to her, or, you know, he likes her or relates to her in some sense. So I do think that, like you said, the camera angles that they did demonstrate in this were very important to the direction of the show, because they did leave hints in how camera angles were presented.
I agree with that. Moving on to... Sorry, I got a lot of tabs up. I got to click through. Sound design. There isn't much. A lot of the sound were given through whatever they were. You know what it reminded me of? And this is about to sound crazy, but it reminded me of Clannad, like the way the story was being told. Like when they were, I'm gonna call her Kiku. But Kiku's, when they were, you know, going over her play, and the music and the sound of the narration of that was cool. It was super cool. But it wasn't nothing to write home about in the show as far as sonically goes. I did like the inner monologues. For some reason, the inner monologues were very intense in a lot of scenes early on. Like the first 5 episodes of season 2, where you had the bully situation going on, it was a moment that sonically blew my fucking mind. But that only happened once or twice, and it was not much thereafter that kind of wowed me as far as sound goes. So I gave sound a 7.5.
Okay. All right. So we did a little bit of a flip flop there. And for me, sound design, I loved hearing these characters' voices. And I felt like
dubbed or
both, but dubbed is what I listened to most of all when I went through the first season.
Shout out to Adam Gibbs.
Yeah, so I loved hearing these characters' voices so much to where it felt like I was just zoned in, bro.
Yeah, I didn't watch it dubbed, so I don't.
It was so easy for me to shut everything else off. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hope this makes sense to y'all. But I was able to get in the zone and just focus on this when I turned it on, and a lot of that was attributed to how it sounds and just listening to these characters talk. I love the monologues, just like you said. So for me, like I said, I gave the sound design an 8. No, I didn't think it was like sonically groundbreaking either, but I do think it was definitely above a C, because I loved hearing these characters talk. And then when I had to transition to Japanese, it even, to me, it carried a very similar, if not the same weight in terms of conversation amongst the characters.
I wish I would have listened to it dubbed.
But it could have been just me, just like so in my head trying to figure out what's happening next, that I was I was stuck. You know what I mean? Yeah. I loved listening to these characters talk to each other.
Yeah. Next is pacing, which is the episode to episode strength and how strong the development was story wise.
So, I feel like pacing was one of his strongest categories.
Absolutely.
And I don't think Polo's gonna agree with me on my score, but I gave the pacing a 9.5. But hear me out. The only imperfection to me in the pacing for season 2, because season 1 to me was basically perfect in pacing. The only imperfection for me in the pacing in season 2 was the fact that I was like, damn, are we gonna find out who he's gonna date? And that was in the last week's episode. I'm like, I want to know who he's gonna date, and then I get it this week, and I was like, okay, I'm not mad, but I was just waiting for it, and it made me feel like I was just a little. It made me feel a little too eager, which could just go to how good the story was. The story to me felt like it was so good that I could not wait to see what was about to happen next. So I gave it 9.5 because it was like, man, you led me on just a little bit. So it was basically perfect. It's just not quite there. I have to give that 0.5 to the plot when we get there.
So the pacing for me was again very similar to yours, very close to perfect. I think we always get to this particular point in our reviews where we slightly veer differently from the way we kind of score things. Mm-hmm. The pacing for me at the beginning was great. I like how it was not focused on, it was focused on something completely different than what it was in season 1 entirely. It was what I consider it being like the culmination of what he went through in season 1 to then get him to this point to where he can analyze the game of life in a different, to use
his skills that he built
in a different way. And the way they paced that out, I thought was really good. I'm not gonna say flawless because it wasn't. There was a couple of times where I'm like, damn, like, and I think we said it in the Discord, like, where's, like, this is dragging on a little bit too long, or this could have, like, this could have been wrapped up sooner, or
like whatever. The bullying moment.
Yeah, like certain points where it was just like, just a little bit, it could have moved a little bit past that. And it was a couple of points within that first half of the season that wasn't right. Second half was damn near perfect, I think, personally. Mm-hmm. So for me, I gave it a 9. So very, very close to you, but in a different aspect, because again, the way the episodes moved, it was great for the conversation. Like I said in Discord, our Discord conversations was fantastic week to week. But a lot of times I even think in the Discord, somebody said like, it's kind of dragging a little bit too long. And we got only so many episodes this season. Like when can we get more necessarily progression as far as the story goes is right. kind of was the general consensus at the beginning of season 2. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's a different perspective because I watched it week to week and you were a little bit more able to binge more so.
It, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's why, but I do think it was very, very good. Now, moving on to what's next in the rating scale is plot. So plot is the overall thoughts on the storytelling, writing, etc. The storytelling and writing of this show, of this particular season, was some of the best ever. I loved the fucking minor hints that they dropped in between each character, between each scene in every episode, in the way that I guess that goes into characters, but the way certain characters were written was so fucking good that it made the story is so intriguing to the point where I was second guessing everything as far as the story goes. It was broken up. You can say it was broken up into two sections, and it was the bully section and it was the play section. And both stories were written so well when it comes to the overarching story of, again, playing the game we call life. I think was so done. He was able to use all he learned in season 1 into this season and kind of like digest and analyze and do things a lot cleaner than he did in his first half when he was just learning how to play it. That him actually playing it turned out to be fucking phenomenal. So for me, the story is a 10.
Mm-hmm.
It was so good.
So when I get to this point, right, when I'm talking about the plot and the story and how everything developed, so I was not a part of Discord conversations. I had missed a lot of those, but
it's never a part of Discord conversations. We're trying to
hear me out. I have to disagree, especially with like the bullying part, and I'm only gonna say it for this. I feel like that part was to show the skills like you were saying that he had developed, that he had learned, and it was for him to execute those moments. So when we were talking about the pacing, I felt like it was that part was a little bit slower specifically for that moment. And the way they delivered it to us, and then how they used that to transition to the next part, because it was a slight transition from there to help get to this next point to problem solve with the playing, how we're going to do the play. I also think the story is a 10. The plot is a 10. It's so hard to give it anything else because of how everything just seamlessly rolled together. Even with that almost feeling a little disjointed, it rolled into it with like the continuation of a quest and a mission. You know what I mean? It's still a quest, even though it feels different than where you're going. It was able to roll into the next step so well and seamlessly that it felt like it was him achieving something and learning that even his understanding of things with his newfound skills and learning isn't necessarily right either. Right. That he still has to figure out how to do these things like a regular person would, even though his decision, his ideas weren't necessarily wrong. They just weren't necessarily the right ones. Mm-hmm. So I loved it. So yeah, I gave the plot a 10.
Okay. And moving on to last, but definitely, certainly not least, it's how much you like and grew attached to the characters. It's the character topic. How did you feel about the characters, King, Telliano?
Some of the most enjoyable characters I've had in Slice of Life. There was only one character I didn't like, and it was just for that specific bullying scene. I'm not even gonna say one character because they made the whole aura and energy in the room. They even talked about how the dynamic of the classroom is changing. So there was a moment where I was just liking other characters as well. But that was part of the characterization in those moments. So I think the characters are also, in my opinion, a 10 because they fit the scenarios so absolutely. They all fit their roles absolutely. They all delivered where they were supposed to deliver perfectly. And like I said, this is my opinion. Don't know if Polo's going to agree, but characters are a 10 for me.
Yeah, I rated it before you even finished saying yours. Like, as soon as we hit the character topic, I rated mine already. So this is even before you gave your score. But I will say this, that the most important piece, well, again, I say this every fucking time we discuss this, but the most important piece about a show to me is characters. It's always been characters, then it's world, then it's everything else, power systems, whatever have you. These characters, again, go back to the Discord conversations, had me every week like, man, I'm starting to not like her. This is the reason why I'm not starting to not like her. I feel like she's doing this. I feel like this is her problem. I feel like this. And the fact that you got me saying these about these fiction, like these non-real people, these people are anime characters that I'm fucking like, I'm so deeply invested in that I couldn't like, I'm falling in love with people who I did like okay. We're going to get to this and when we're done with the review, because I really want to discuss it in full spoilers. We've done a very great job of not doing any spoilers this review, and we want to keep it that way. So I think the characters are 10 as well. I already put that in the score. Of course. Everything about them were fucking flawless when it comes to like character development, growth, situations. Even the people you're not supposed to like, even the people you're supposed to like, you tend to second guess and et cetera. It was so good that I couldn't take away the fact that I wanted more. I didn't want it to end at all. Mm-hmm. I gave it a 10. So yeah, it was one of the easiest shows to watch that I was looking forward to the most. And every time I was done, I had to say something to somebody. And it was always in Discord. Bottom tier character spoilers. And when you put the spoiler tag in, then I would just go off. And Saphir and TCB and T Money Fingers, we were all in there just fucking chatting it up about this show. And it was so much crazy fun. So fun, man. It was so fun to just discuss this because it was so much in there that I'm like, man, I'm starting to think this and I'm starting to think that. And people were giving their little speculations. And it was just so much fun, man. And I think it's because of the characters being as good as they are. Like, if the plot wasn't as good as it is, I think the characters wouldn't be as good as if the plot wasn't as good. And I think the plot wouldn't be nearly as good if the characters wasn't as good. So it's kind of hard. Together. They work together like flawlessly that you can't give one a 9 and one a 10 because they were just that perfect together, I think, personally. Now, here are the scores for the total of bottom tier character Tomozaki season 2. I gave the animation an 8. Tel gave it a 7.5. I gave the sound design a 7.5. Tel gave it an 8. I gave the pacing a 9. Tel gave it a 9.5. I gave the plot a 10. Tel gave it a 10. It was 10 all plot and characters, which brought my overall score to an 8.9. And then that brought Tel's overall score to a 9, which gives Mike Check Waifu overall score an 8.95. An 8.95 is what we gave bottom tier character Tomozaki season 2. Now, let me pull up. Sorry if y'all hear my click clacketing of my internet browser, but I'm going to pull up everything that we reviewed. I think we're missing. Were you missing some stuff?
I don't think.
I don't think we added the last thing we rated. Yeah, we are missing it. Damn it. Okay. But I'm gonna go ahead and add this to the list.
Yeah, I'm gonna put this in notes and then let me go find that.
All right, so I'm gonna read off everything we've reviewed. And one of them is going to be missing, but we're going to get that added as soon as Tel's looking that up. But everything we reviewed so far with that Mic Check Waifu skill that you just listened to. Okay. So let's start from the bottom this time. I'm going to do something a little bit different. Starting from the bottom. Now we're going to go with number 31, which is 91 Days. We gave a 6.4. Number 30, Banana Fish at a 7.3. Number 29, Love Flops with a 7.45. Number 28, the movie Suzume, 7.75. Number 27, Dr. Stone, that's season 1, 7.8. 26, this is season 1 of Tokyo Revengers, 7.85. 25, My Hero Academia, season 4, 7.9. 24 was Gangsta, 7.95. 23, Chivalry of a Fell Knight, 7.95. 22, Bungo Stray Dogs, 8.4. 21, Invincible, 8.45. Number 20, Link Click, 8.45. 19, Darwin's Game, 8.5. 18, Made in Abyss, 8.5. That was the review we did with Blaname. Number 17, the Entertainment District for Demon Slayer, 8.5. 16 was the Swordsmith Village arc, 8.65. Number 15 was Vox Machina, 8.6. That's season 1 of Vox Machina. Number 14, Steins Gate, 8.65. Number 13, Erased, 8.75. Number 12, Beastars, 8.85. Number 11, Demon Slayer, 8.8. That's season 1. Number 10 is Bottom Tier Character, season 2 at 8.95. You was about to say them?
The last review we did got a 9.7 out of 10.
Okay, so that was for the what show was that?
A Place Further in the Universe.
A Place Further in the Universe. Okay, so number 9 was Arcane at 9.2. Number 8 was Vinland Saga, 9.25. Number 7, Grimgar Fantasy Nash, 9.3. Number 6 was Fire Force, 9.35. Number 5, My Teen Romantic Comedy Series, 9.45. Number 4, JJK at 9.8. So that means A Place Further in the Universe. Further than the Universe would be at number 5, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So A Place Further than the Universe is at number 5 at, what was the score?
9.7.
9.7. And then JJK was at number 4, which is a review we did with Knox at 9.8. Clannad was at number 3 at 9.8. Number 2 was Astra Lost in Space at a 10. And number 1 was Summertime Rendering with a 10. And then for funsies, a negative review score we gave to Demon Lord Retry season 1. No. Apparently got a season 2.
Oh my God.
Negative 7.75. As soon as that got announced for season 2, you know how many people tweeted us, bro? So many people tweeted us and said Demon Lord Retry got a season 2. Like, wow.
Unnecessary.
Oh, so bad. That's unfortunate.
Do we have to review that?
Maybe it's good. Maybe it's better. That shit was so bad. It was so bad. That's a high ass negative review.
I mean, it's a high negative review. That's less than some of the worst.
Yeah. All right. So before we wrap up, thank y'all everybody so much for listening. We're gonna go into a little bit of spoilers of Bottom Tier Characters. So if you haven't watched it yet, then watch it and then come back here and listen to this review. Season 1 and season 2. But so there was moments in Bottom Tier Character Tell where I'm like, I fucking hate Aoi.
Mm-hmm.
I hate her. I can't stand her. And there was moments in conversations that we had in Discord. I'm like, I'm starting to not like her. Because at first I'm all about, I love what she's doing and I love how she's helping and blah, blah, blah. And then after the bully scene, after she broke down a bully, I'm like, yeah, that's fucking vicious. And it made me realize, like, oh, I know who this girl is.
She's playing the game.
She's the girl who fakes the funk in order to become everybody's favorite. She has no personality of her own because she just becomes what everybody likes. Mm-hmm. So now I'm like, I'm starting to hate her because she's giving Tomazaki these choices of, you know, pick 3 girls and you know what I'm saying? Like kind of playing with emotions like it's a game.
They're meaningless, yeah.
Like it's a game. It's funny enough and it's meaningless. And he's like, yo, I don't want to just treat this like it's nothing. This is a very big deal. And she's like, but come on. And she's like kind of like influencing him to become like that, which pissed me off so much during this entire show. I'm like, she's pissing. I just want her gone now. Like, just let him live now with the knowledge he gained. Just let him live and figure it out on his own. And luckily he did. Luckily he still, even though he still kind of followed the rules of the game or whatever, he's still kind of like, okay, I'm gonna still kind of play this my way.
I was worried that he was going to end up with her.
God, I hope not too.
And the thing is that, and I say that because at some point there has to be a development cycle for her.
Oh yeah, I think we're definitely going to get it.
There has to be a development cycle for her, and it has to be her understanding what the truth really is, like what life really is. Because yes, you're playing it like a game, but it's not just a game. You know what I mean? There's more to it than even thinking about it just like a game, and that's what I think made this part of the season so good, that Tomazaki is able to realize that, and not even just this part of the season, but like the ending of the previous season, of the first season, he comes to that like idea, the culmination of all his work and whatnot, that life, although you're playing it like a game, there's so much more to it that we don't understand yet, regardless of how much knowledge you have. So to me, and that was one of those things that just makes me love the character so much more, because it's like that is literally 100% what the purpose of this should be, and she is lost in that purpose now. And that's what made it so beautiful, because she's sticking to her characterization, and she's only continually fortified what she says she is and how she sees it. She has never deviated from what she said, and that's the crazy part, is that she's never deviated. So I do think, bottom tier character season 3, I think that would be the next step, is the deviation of her. Because yes, Tomazaki still has a ton to learn, but there's stuff that she ain't even scratched the surface of, because like she said in season 1, she's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they dropped the breadcrumbs all throughout. It was it was like you had the main stories, the storylines that was happening with Tomazaki, right? The bullying and then the play. But there was always something small that was dropped as a breadcrumb leading to what IOA really was. And that's right. Either rather if it's her family or how much she's faking it, and people like Kiku noticed it, they know, certain real people know fake ones, essentially. And I think it's always been like that in everyday life. Like, you always can tell when somebody's faking a funk to be someone that they're not. And to just the way that she figured, Kiku, I can't say her full name proper, but Kiku, the way she figured that out and was just kind of yeah, but she's this and she's doing this because of is what making her liked. And then she started to kind of follow her. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, that shit's crazy how even normal people noticed it. But she's always been so aware even before that. So it started off with everybody that will watch season 1 knew that Kiku was like the one that we wanted Tomazaki to be with. Like, that was the overarching girl that we're like, okay, please don't end up with IOA. Please end up with her. Until this season. When Mimi pulled up and was starting to become who Mimi became, my whole entire attitude shifted towards her. Like, I kind of wanted her to win, and it was almost my Team Romantic Comedy levels of heartbreak when it came to that particular part. I was like, because I'm starting to love Mimi. Like, Mimi will bring so much fun and joy to his life, and their conversations are so natural and free flowing, and it doesn't seem particularly fake. And her talking about her being second place all the time broke my fucking heart, because I think she deserved to be it was so much that she just grew. I grew so attached to her and wanting her to win, that it kind of hurt me at the end when he chose Kiku.
And that's what kind of makes it amazing, though, right? Because I feel like, yes, we both love that character. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That would have been the one that I would have wanted him to choose. But she is actually more like him.
Well, you know what I mean? Or Mimi?
Mimi. Okay. She's more like him in that regard, because she has this drive to be number one. She wants to win. She doesn't like being number 2. You know what I mean? She has these certain character things that drive her, and even in her funny moments when they did the stand up and stuff like that, right?
That was great.
She has these moments that are innovative and I would say they push him forward. But he's already in a sense like this kind of I'm not gonna say like a fluster or a flock of emotions, but he does have emotional points where he doesn't fully understand what's going on with like how he's visualizing these things he's feeling and whatnot, right? Whereas and I do have to find her name really
Kiku.
quick. Give me a Kiku, yeah. So when he's with Kiku though, while the pace and expression is lower, right? Like they're not as expressive necessarily in a visual sense.
That's a good way of putting it.
The conversation is very expressive in terms of how they're figuring out who the other is. These conversations, to me, while I do think Mimimi, those are more natural conversations, I think that the conversation he has with Kiku are needed conversations, if that makes sense.
Open.
It's like a natural versus an actual needed conversation, because how do you can have these moments where you're understanding a person just through like naturally being around them, but you do still have to sit down and have a conversation with people. And that's why, COVID killed a bunch of relationships, but this is why I think their relationship is so important, because they actually have sat down and discussed perspectives and point of views and even in the story writing and saying, well, I don't want you to take this out because I think that's important to the dynamic of your characters. And that development, to me, it felt like that's why he chose her, even though like I'm like, man, Mimi is the one. I feel it. I feel why in terms of like that conversation.
And the parallel between the story and her and him and how that kind of shaped their story. It's crazy because she wrote that story based off their class almost to a T, like based off the people around her, because she's so observant that she felt like it's a great way of kind of expressing it in his story. And I thought that was great too. But it's something about the girl who's like, listen, I started to like you because of this. And me and Mimi started telling them the full truth. Something about that I just enjoy. Now with Kiku is she was so down on herself that she thought he was supposed to be with Aoi or Aoi. Mm-hmm. And I don't think nobody watching felt that. Like after what happened this season particularly, maybe I think at the beginning of season 1, I felt like, oh, they could probably be together. That'd be cool. But like, that's like after episode 4, I'm like, nah, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see him with her, because Kiku was introduced and then she started coming around and it felt what I think we talked about in Discord is that it felt natural for them to be together because of the way they kind of naturally grew toward each other, even during his nerdy days or whatever. So I don't know, man. I was still heartbroken for Mimi, and the way she bounced back and everything was just, it made me like her even more. I'm like, fuck, man, this is hard.
What I hate to think about though is that I feel like his conversations with Mimi are very natural and Mimi led, right? So those conversations, it's like that character provides him a different dynamic in terms of how that conversation goes.
It wasn't necessarily a comfort.
Right. But with Kiku, she basically lets him lead the conversation. And that's how we kind of see these relationships very differently, because Mimi, although she didn't pay attention to him until he started to, be a little bit more of the attempting to be outgoing. Once she didn't mind speaking up and talking to him. You know what I mean? Right. She made it known very well that she wanted to talk to him. Whereas when it comes to Kiku, the conversations are very much so led by him. So basically we're in a dynamic where they're still not kind of on even pairing, in my opinion. And I do think that he has a better conversation in terms of evenness with Kiku, but I still think that he's mostly leading that conversation. And that's why he couldn't go in with Mimi, is because she was leading that conversation. I don't think he was ready to fully get there yet, if that makes sense. Like, he was still too socially uncomfortable and awkward to really invest in that part yet. He wasn't there at that level yet. He didn't have that skill set yet. So that's what worries me, is that, like, and I guess this is me giving too much humanness to these characters, is that as he develops his skill sets, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I do think that could very well be what happens in season 3 as well, is that they do get that experience and they grow, and it's like, okay, well, maybe this don't work for us. Which be really very realistic for season 3. Is just, we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I was okay at the end after it was all said and done because of that particular reason. I feel like, again, it was a much more natural growth for them. And as soon as they show what I think Saphir said this, but he said, as soon as they showed the montage of Kiku and all the conversations they had between season 1 and season 2, he said he knew it was a wrap. I was like, yo, that's the telltale flag that's who he was going to choose the entire time. And then her, like, and what made that hard to watch was her fucking assuming that he just wanted to be with Ioi. And I don't think he believed it, nor did I. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't believe that he should have. I don't think nobody thought that, right?
No, I mean,
why would you think that's where he needed to go? Is it because they were always together because of?
I think because that's the obvious choice, right?
Or
and
I guess
it's
the
because
natural.
they do coincide a lot. Like, literally, that's who he's talking to every day to even get to this point. So, and like I said, that's what scares me about season 3, is that I feel like that's going to be the reversion.
Yeah, I think she assumed that because she's the one that brought him out to who he is now, that they were supposed to be together. And that was kind of the thought process. And again, what you're saying is, I also agree with too. It was very scary.
Yeah, I don't want that to be the scenario.
Me either.
I would rather her end up with the pretty boy.
Yeah, green hair dude.
Yeah, I'd rather her end up with him, because no. And it's not that I hate her character, because like I said, I think that she has stayed true to who she was written as the entire time. They did not fluctuate on what kind of person she's let herself on to be.
God, the way that part was directed to, when she was breaking down that bully and like these different ways, because she'd been planting these seeds all the time in the classroom the entire time. It was directed so fucking well. And you can, when Tomozaki's inner monologue was coming in, it was like, she's doing this because of this. Now she's doing this. I'm like, oh shit, this shit is fucking fire. Show is great, man. The show is fantastic. End up being, again, top tier fucking, no pun intended, actually fuck your pun intended, top tier like slice of life show easily. It's so good. And I'm so glad you finally watched it. I am.
It's been worth it.
I'm at Polo Bornfly on all social media.
I'm at King Telliano on all social media.
You can follow our social medias at Mike Check Waifu on Twitter, and that Mike Check Waifu on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. And as always, Mike Check.
You're now tuned into Mike Check Waifu. Is that you? Is that you? Is that you? Is that you? Is that you?